Hello, 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 everyone. Super excited that you're joining us. I am over the moon thrilled that we are being joined by Linda Peavy. And for those of you who don't know Linda, Linda is the queen of grant writing. And I don't say that lightly. She has built this title based off of years and years and decades of her experience and helping people win grants. So thank you so much, Linda, for being here today. I am super excited to talk about this topic because I think grants are one of those things that everybody wants and nobody knows how to do that. So I'd love if you can just give us a quick intro about your journey and your path getting here.
Absolutely. So, yes, my name is Linda Peavy. I own LaPav Consulting, and this is the 16th year of me owning my company. And for every one of those 16 years, yes, I have been a professional grant writer, and I've secured over $17 million in grants for my customers, which includes nonprofits and for-profit organizations. And a couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to reach even more people. So I built a grant writing academy where I have 3,000 students and they learn how to research, write, and win grants.
That is amazing. So, Linda, can we talk about who can win grants? Like, who are there certain people that grants are a good fit for and certain people that just shouldn't be applying for grants? Who can win grants?
Well, I think one of the major questions that I get asked a lot is, am I ready to get a grant? Is there a grant for me? Because oftentimes there's misinformation about who can qualify for grants. So grants are for organizations, and oftentimes I get individuals saying, I want to provide cash to someone in need, or I want to help someone who can't pay their rent. Well, grants are for organizations, either you're a nonprofit or a for profit, but they are for structured entities, right, that exist to then provide services to others. But it is important, though, that you are grant ready. There is a stage to preparing to apply for grants. So it's not as easy as, oh, I see a grant application, I want to apply, but there's work that needs to be done to make sure you have your financial documents in order, to make sure you have your legal documents in order, to make sure you have an operating budget, to make sure you know who you are serving. I think that's one of the biggest issues that I see is that people want to help people create organizations and they try to help everybody. But you really do need a target population um, to be able to niche down and say, okay, this is a population of people that I want to help or that I want to serve. So you need to, at least at your core, know your mission. Like, who are you wanting to help? Who are you wanting to serve? And then what does that audience look like? Because it will make all the difference in the world when you start to research and find grants to make sure that whatever foundation you're seeking money from or corporation, that there is an alignment between how they are providing funding and then what type of services you have. So I always say, make sure those missions align. Your mission should align with the mission of the organization or the foundation for which you are seeking money.
So, can you talk about what some of the myths are? So, I think there's probably a lot of misconceptions.
Oh,
With the
yeah.
internet, tons of misinformation. What do you think some of the myths are when it comes to grants?
Oh, I spend so much time correcting people about this grant world because I know it's a maze. Like you there are some grants out there and you want grants, but you have no idea how to go about getting it. So first of all, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that grants are guaranteed. So this is how people get scammed, right? Someone is saying to them, "Oh, if you give me a certain amount of money, I'm going to guarantee that you get this grant." And there's no such thing. If you take nothing else away from me today, there is no such thing as a guaranteed grant. So that can lead down very slippery slopes in terms of who you're giving your money to that would help you right, to find and write a grant, just know that there is no such thing as guaranteed grant money. That's one. Number two, I find that there's a lot of misinformation about how you work with grant writers. So, too many people are under the misconception that you can pay a grant writer based on the percentage of winnings, right? Or that you can pay a grant writer if you win the grant. And that's just not true. You cannot use grant funding for expenses that occurred before you even receive the grant, right? So the way in which you work with a grant writers are paid up front. They're paid whether or not you receive the grant because you are hiring them for their skill set. So the idea that, oh, you're only going to pay them if you get the grant is actually not even legal in some states because, again, you cannot use those funds to pay for expenses that occurred before you got the grant. So that needs to be a relationship that you have between you and the grant writer. So
Okay.
that's just oh, and another one I would say is that small businesses can't get grants, right? So typically, over the past many decades, when you thought about a grant, you thought about what? A nonprofit organization. Everything changed with COVID. So when
Mhm.
COVID-19 happened, so many small businesses went under, right? And as we know, the small business is the backbone of the US economy. So your major corporations stepped in and said, we need to do something about the fact that all of these small businesses are going under. And so many of these major corporations with foundations as a part of their infrastructure stepped up and started to create pools of grant money earmarked for small businesses. So that's one of the reasons why there's so much money available right now for not only nonprofits, but small businesses as well. Because when you look at just in 2023, corporate giving, right, and organizational giving and foundation giving, we're at $189 billion, right, in 1 year. So the issue is not that there's no grant money, right? It is about how are you going to place your organization in the best possible position to receive it.
So, Linda, when you said small businesses, if I am a solopreneur, but I have a legal structure, so maybe I'm an LLC, but it's
Right.
just me, would I qualify?
So, absolutely. So, receiving a grant is less about your structure and more about the impact that you have on your target population. So, you can be a solopreneur, but you can, for example, hire contractors that help you, right, to implement the work that you are providing. So, because you're an LLC or a solopreneur or a sole proprietor, matters less than what structure do you have in place that will allow you to do the work of your mission. And I always say it should never just be you, right? You can't do this alone, right? You need a team of people, even if they are volunteers, right? That's another misconception is that you need some huge organizational chart or you need some large staff to get grants. And it's just not true, right? Literally all volunteer organizations can get grant funding. It is about the impact, right, that you are providing on your customers and the people that you serve. So, absolutely, LLCs, sole proprietors get grant money every day.
Okay. That's awesome because I think you're right. I didn't even look at grants until COVID. And then COVID was this like weird time of panic where and I also think I didn't understand until COVID that there is a very long process and you need all these things. Look at how many people couldn't get PPP money or couldn't get certain things because they didn't have financials in order.
Exactly. They didn't have the documentation. So that's one of the first things I teach is that you need your documentation. If you are a nonprofit, you need your 501c3. Even if you are a church, even if you are a school, those are some of your typical nonprofits. Even as a church, you still need a 501c3 because foundations are oftentimes mandated by their board of directors that they can only give their grant funding to nonprofits with the 501c3. So if you're a nonprofit, you need that designation, right? You need your financial documents. Even if you are a startup, and yes, there are grants for startups, even if you are a startup, you at least need an annual budget because at the end of the day, you must know approximately how much it's going to take for you to operate your organization over the course of a year. And when you create that budget, and it can be based on, estimates, that's fine. But when you create that budget, it will also give you some idea of how much grant money you should be asking for. So
Mhm.
you're right. So many small businesses did not have their documentation in order or a relationship with the bank, right? As a
Mhm.
business, you need a business account, right? That is absolutely critical, especially if you are going to be seeking grants, because the last thing you want to do is start mixing money.
Yes, yes. It's interesting. I was in a mastermind, and the person that ran the mastermind said he thought he had a relationship with his banker, but he had a relationship with the tellers. And when he went to go try and apply for a loan, tellers can't do anything.
That's
It's
right.
great that they know your family. It's great that they know about your business. They don't do underwriting. They can't
That's
say
right.
yes.
That's right. So that is important, right? So it's one thing to be seen by the tellers because you're going to the bank, you're going to the counter, you're exchanging whatever you need to exchange, right? Or you're making deposits or withdrawing money, but that doesn't get you beyond the glass, right? You need to go beyond the glass, right? You need to be able to have conversations and meetings, right, with the VP of banking, VP of economic development, VP of community reinvestment. Those are the individuals at that bank, right, that you need to be meeting with on a regular basis, not just when something terrible happens or when there's a mistake. These should be regular meetings that you are having, because banks, right, if they're worth their salt, should be a partner with you in helping to grow your organization, right? They should not be seen just as portals for you to deposit or withdraw money, because here's another misnomer that people have. Banks provide grants. Banks are some of the largest providers of grant money in the country, but most people see them as just an opportunity to secure loans.
Mm, yeah, that part. Um, I mean, it's just there's so much to it. There's just so much to it. So it's 100% understandable why it can be overwhelming.
It
Um,
can. It can be.
and especially if you're a solopreneur or you're an entrepreneur and you're doing all the things. You're running the business, you're doing the invoicing, you're doing the sales, you're doing the marketing. It almost feels like it's unachievable, honestly, because it's
It is achievable. So again, of my 3,000 students, I have many, 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 many students who receive grant funding, from your larger organizations to your solopreneurs, right? I think this is why you need help. If you're going to secure grant funding, do so in a community, right?
Mhm.
Where you can get the help, where there are other like minded entrepreneurs, right? Or like minded leaders of nonprofits that you can bounce ideas off of, you can seek help. That's why with my academy, it is crucial that I have this private Facebook group where this is the community, right?
Mhm.
Because it's so important to be able to help each other when you don't know. And oftentimes you don't know what you don't know, but to be able to ask a question and actually get a real answer is helpful, so that it doesn't feel, overwhelming, because it can be overwhelming if you have no idea. You just know that there's some free money out there, right? But you don't know exactly the path to take in order to get it. And
Right.
so that's why being in a supportive community and getting professional help is key, because that's another issue that often arises, right? People
Mhm.
who say that they are professional grant writers are not necessarily professional grant writers, or they say, well, I know this information about grants, listen to me, and they've never even written a grant before. So that's why, if at all possible, get into a community of like-minded organizations where you can get the help and the support that you need, because it can be a maze, right? There's so much to it. um, but that's why coaching is important, and being in a safe space, because unfortunately I hear horror stories every day now about people being scammed when it comes to
Mhm.
grants and seeking grants and grant writing. Again, that's why that community is just absolutely critical.
And it's interesting because we just had this conversation before we started the webinar that we sit at our desk all day in our office by ourselves.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, Linda, until years into my business to try and find community and
Right.
try and find mentors. And
Right.
had I known that, I struggled for years just trying to figure stuff out, and whether it was marketing, whether it was sales. So that community aspect, especially with something that feels so complex and might feel overwhelming. I think that's incredible that you built that for people, because I also think that there's levels to this. So
Yes.
if you have this community, then they can also help each other grow.
Absolutely. So, for example, in the Facebook group, it was the students who started all these different chats so that they could literally collaborate. So if you have an accounting firm, you're looking for someone else who has an accounting firm in the group. If you have a daycare center, you're looking for someone else that has a daycare center. If you serve veterans, you want to know who else in the group serves veterans, so that now they're literally writing grants together, like in a
Mm.
collaborative effort, which is key, right? Because that's one of the real issues and challenges to being able to write and secure government grants. Typically, they're looking for you to be in some type of a collaboration or partnership. So this idea of community and collaboration and partnerships, critical, is one of the things I teach. You cannot do this alone, right? It doesn't work. You'll get burnt out quicker than you could possibly imagine. So regardless of what type of organization you have, whether it's service-based or program-based or project-based, doesn't matter if you have a for-profit or a nonprofit, you need to be working with other organizations in your community. And that doesn't mean that there's an exchange of money. I am a huge advocate of libraries. I'm actually doing a tour through the library systems where I live. Libraries are such underutilized resources, right? You can actually search for free grants, right, at your local library, but also they can be partners in helping you, right, to showcase the skills and talents that you have. So, for example, you could do a free talk 1 hour a month at your local library, and have the opportunity to really increase your level of visibility, right? Let people in your community know that you exist, because I always say it's much easier to get local grant money than it is grant money on a national scale.
Yes. So Jamie had a question real quick, Linda. She said, is there a website where she can check which state it's illegal to pay grant writers? So I think it looks like she works for a nonprofit.
So, so here's what you need to know. There's no particular state, right? It's just that this is across the board when it comes to grant writing. You cannot pay not just a grant writer, but you can pay for any expenses, right, that occurred before you got the award letter.
Hmm.
So when you get grant funding, what you are utilizing the money for has to occur at least on the date of the award letter or afterwards, right? You cannot use those funds to pay for expenses that occurred before you were even awarded the grant funding. And so that's what you have to keep in mind. Just know that when you are, which makes sense, right? Because when you are creating and completing your grant application, you're indicating, okay, this is how I'm going to pay for these expenses once you get the grant funding. So you can't be retroactive and how and where you are placing the use of the grant funding. Those expenses have to occur from the date of that award letter forward.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Jamie. I hope that helped answer the question. So, Linda, what do you think if you had to choose one? I'm sure there's tons of mistakes that people make, but if you had to choose one mistake, what do you think is the biggest mistake that your clients make when they're applying for a grant?
Not aligning their mission to the mission of the foundation or the organization that is providing the grant
Mm.
funding. Oftentimes they see, oh my gosh, there's a $20,000 grant available or $2 million grant available. That's a lot of money. Let me apply, right? Without determining, is this grant for me? So the organization that provided the grant, they all have areas of interest. Like every foundation has a certain area for which they fund, right? So if they're giving money to organizations that make cakes and you are a motorcycle organization, you're not going to apply to that grant because they're only giving money to people who bake cakes, right? But oftentimes people just see the number, which is where people fail when it comes to government grants. Like they're seduced by these $2 and $3 million grants. Is like, I need to try to get this money when the grant is not even structured for them or for their organization. That's why, one, you must have a mission statement, even if you are for profit, because you want to align your mission to the mission of the organization that's providing the funding so that there's a match there, so that you know that the resources that you're offering, the programs or the projects, right, is covered, right, excuse me, in the grant instructions that the foundation is providing. So that's why it's so important to be able to read like what those instructions are to make sure there's a match, that they fit what it is that you are providing.
And that seems like, so I thought you were going to say something like your financials or something like that, but that seems like a fairly logical thing to be in alignment. But you said it's a common mistake that people make.
It's a very common mistake because people see money first. They see the dollars first. Oh my gosh, there's a $50,000 grant. Oh my gosh, somebody's giving away $1 million,
Yeah.
right? And so they just move forward without really examining the website to find out, is this really for me? And it wastes a lot of time because you're doing research. You may even start writing, excuse me, or even submitting the grant, and then you get a rejection letter and you wonder why you got the rejection letter, because you wrote this great grant application, but it did not correspond at all with what they were looking to fund. And that's one other mistake that people make a lot, is that they send an email and they ask for money in the email. Like never, ever, ever, ever ask for money in the email, right? You need to set up a meeting with these foundations. You must, that's probably number two, I would say. You must establish a relationship. You have to meet with these foundations, because sending them an email and saying, I just need $10,000 from my organization. I know that you have grant funding, is going to get you almost an automatic rejection letter. So you have to be able to say, okay, I need to spend at least like a 30-minute Zoom meeting to meet with this organization so that they get to know who I am, they get to know about me. And in that meeting, oftentimes you're going to learn information about the grant that they don't even put on their website. But that's what happens when you build relationship. So to me, that's probably like the number one most important factor in securing grants, is building that relationship. But one of the number one mistakes people make is just not doing research enough to know that they even qualify for the grant.
Wow. So are there grants that are designated for specific groups? Like are they allocated for certain groups?
So absolutely. So grants can be based on mainly three different areas, right? It can be based on your industry, right? So let's say Shea Moisture, they make shampoo and conditioners, right? Well, they have a grant that's geared towards women who want to open up beauty salons, right? Same industry. So look to your industry, right? Um, Grants can also be based on your ethnicity and your gender, right? So there are some grants earmarked for Black owned organizations, earmarked for minority owned organizations, earmarked for women owned organizations. Amber Grants for Women is a great one. They are laser focused on providing grant money for women owned businesses. So, yes, it can be based on your ethnicity or your gender, or your industry, but also your mission and your target population. Who are you serving? So if your target population is the homeless community, yes, there are grants that are geared specifically to organizations serving the homeless community. So most grants, right, are going to be geared towards some type of target population. So you must know who it is that you are serving, and you can't help everybody. That's something else I teach. You cannot help everybody. So when I ask you, who are you serving? You can't say everybody, right? You have to niche down, because the more you niche down, the easier it is to find your funder.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. And it also, I think that would help knowing, because then it narrows the pool. Like it's not this big
Absolutely.
massive all these things are available. It really helps me focus on the ones that I'm probably more likely to win.
Ones that you are more likely to qualify for, because if you know that you serve veterans, and again, niche down. So let's say you serve veterans. How are you serving veterans? Right? That could depend on what grant you get. So if you're
Mhm.
providing mental counseling services for veterans with PTSD, that's a different grant. If you're providing transitional housing to veterans, that's a different grant. So you also have to ask yourself, how are you helping your target population? Because however you are serving them will also lead you to how to find grants for that particular community.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And so one of the questions I have, and I don't know if this is true or not, is do you have to be certified to get a grant? Like,
Oh, that's such a great, great, great question. And that's one that I get often. So typically, your community foundations, your private foundations, your corporate foundations, most of those grants you absolutely do not have to be certified for, right? Even if they say this grant is geared towards a minority owned business, it means that the business has to be 51% or more owned by a minority. If the grant is for a woman owned business, the business has to be 51% or more owned by a woman, right? Those are your typical private community, public charity grants, right? However, if you are going to be seeking contracts, right? Contracts from the government, whether it's city, county, state, or federal, any type of contracts, right? Or you're going to be bidding to receive contracts, or you're completing an RFP that is brought by the federal government, that is when you need your certifications, whether it's a WBE, Women Business Enterprise, MBE, Minority Business Enterprise, VOBE, Veteran Owned Business Enterprise. That's where you need your certifications if you are going to be seeking any kinds of contracts working with either corporations or the government, right? Either one, because many corporations, as you know, also look for opportunities to partner with organizations through contracts. So, government or corporate contracts, if you're seeking those, that's when you need the certification, which is absolutely critical for you to have, and not as scary as people think.
okay, so that's great. There's just so I think the internet is this blessing and curse where there's so much information out there,
Mhm.
that you don't know. You get overwhelmed. You don't know what's right, what to trust, what not to trust. It's a lot. So I don't know. It's hard to keep
Well,
up with
but
all of
again, I think this is why people get lost and they give up. So I can't stress enough the importance of being in a community where you can get the help if you ask a question. You're not waiting for weeks to get it, or you don't have to go to Google where you don't even know how to search or how to look. That's why for me, having I created this grant writing course, right? That is the academy, where I'm teaching people literally from soup to nuts, not only how you write a grant, but how you research to find your funder. So the course that I created, this academy, teaches you how do you sort through the noise to find the organization that wants to give companies like yours or nonprofits like yours the funding, right? So it teaches you how to research, it teaches you how to write, but also includes my coaching, because I believe that level of support is important, right? It's not just another grant writing course. It does include my coaching. It includes um, group coaching sessions, and includes like my Facebook group. That of course is 24/7. It's a private Facebook group, because you need that level of support. So let's say the course teaches you how to write the grant, and you do the research and you find your funder, you set up a meeting. The coaching comes in so that I can let you know, what do you say in that meeting? What do you
Mm,
bring? What do you listen for? Right? Um, how long should it be? How do you set it up? What is it that you are seeking from that particular foundation? Because it's important to listen when you get to those meetings. So for me, I'm always going to advocate, yes, learning from a course, but also having that additional support that a coach would be able to provide. And that's something that I still do with my students as a part of the course. I do provide the coaching. I am there for the group sessions. I actually have one tomorrow night. I'm there for the group sessions. I'm there often in the Facebook group answering questions so that people just get the clarity that they need. And that's something else that is sometimes an issue. You know, us entrepreneurs, sometimes we can have 10 different ideas, right, in our heads, and we just want to implement them all, right? So part of what I do, because I do provide additional coaching sessions, that's part of the services that I provide, is just to help you get clarity. Like, where should you actually be focusing in terms of how you want to pursue this mission that you have? Because usually entrepreneurs have multiple ideas, but it pays to focus, right? Because you can't do it all, you can't serve everyone. And so what do you do to build your organization and serve your target population while also being able to at least provide help or resources or referrals, right, to other organizations that can also meet your customers' needs? So it's part of what we talk about in our group sessions and during the Facebook group.
yes, thank you. And Lisa, I did post the link to Linda's course. So she's got a course that's called Grant Writing for Non-Grant Writers. So it's perfect if you are not a grant writer. And I'm sure you probably have grant writers in there too that have joined your course to
I
learn how
do.
to write grant better.
I do, because it's so in depth that, one, I have grant writers who just want to hone up on their skills, and I have people who take the course and become so adept at writing grants that they become grant writers, which is amazing to see. Like, people go in wanting to learn how to write a grant for their own business, and then they become so great at it because the course is so in depth and just doesn't leave anything out, that they in turn become professional grant writers, which is like amazing. It's an amazing thing to see. And
Yes.
people have won, oh my gosh, they've won just all different amounts of money, $200,000, $50,000. One gentleman who wants to remain anonymous, which I understand, won $2 million. So
Wow.
they win at many different levels, right? Because it teaches you a lot more than just writing grant. This is about, how do you build relationships with those foundations and those organizations that can help you increase your revenue, which should always be diversified, right? You shouldn't just solely rely on grants, or maybe you have products, but you need, in order to really be able to grow, you need diverse revenue streams. And grant writing should be considered one of those streams for you, whether or not you are a for-profit or a nonprofit. The money is available. Again, in 2023, last year, $189 billion, right? And when you throw in like individual giving, you're at $445 billion. So the money is there. Like, don't ever let someone say to you, oh, there's no grant money anymore, we've been through COVID. The money is there. You have to really ask yourself, how are you going to place your organization in the best possible position to secure grant funding? Because it is very possible, even, yes, as a solopreneur, as one person, again, focus on the impact that you're wanting to make.
Right. And I just want to, so we're in this age of everybody has a course, and and we're in this weird age that people will have a little bit of success and think that's enough to build a course. So I just want to say for everyone out there that Linda does this. This is what she's been doing for almost 2 decades.
Yes.
And she could charge thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for her course, but her course is less than $500.
Yes.
So, and I don't endorse things, or I don't push things. And this is not, I'm not being paid to sponsor this. This is a skill that you can potentially have in your business for life.
Yes.
This is something that is she's teaching you a skill that will pay returns and dividends in your business if it's a fit for you. If this is something that you have a type of service that can apply for a grant. But I just really want to emphasize that, and to Linda as well, that she could absolutely be charging more for this. So it just goes to show, and thank you, Linda, for doing that, because
Sure.
you absolutely can and should be charging more for this than you do. So that just shows your spirit, and that shows your purpose and your passion,
I
that
appreciate that.
you want us to win. And I
I
appreciate
do. I do, and I get that all the time. I mean, I have friends who charge $2,000 for their courses, and I know that you don't get what you get in my course, but I know that I can help you, and so I provide this cost at this course, whether at a super low cost, because I know that it can help you. It's been proven again and again and again with people who have never written a grant ever, who never thought they would get grant money. I'm asked that so often, Linda, if I've never received a grant, can I get grant money? Well, that's everybody, because at some point, everybody was in a place where they had never written a grant before. And you have organization after organization after organization writing, not just writing, right, but winning grant, because I have created a formula that I've used, right? This is how I was able to secure $17 million. I put it in a course, right? So I didn't just decide, oh, this is a quick way to make money. I've been grant writing for 16 years. I won over $17 million. The course is how I did it, so that you could do it, right? So that you would be able to have this additional skill that can actually bring you resources. And again, what's been happening is that people find that, oh my gosh, like I can do this. And if I can do it for me and I can win grant money for me, I can do it for someone else. And they become grant writers, and they come full circle, and it's a beautiful thing, because they literally are now earning a living, based on a resource that they were utilizing to just earn, a certain amount of money, and now they're adding additional revenue. So the course is proven, the course works. And again, it's grant writing for non-writers, because this course is for people who don't write grants, who never thought they would ever be able to write a grant. And something else that I want to add, because there's oftentimes a fear, grant writing is not what it used to be. You're not sitting in some corner writing a 500-page document for 3 months on end. I know, because that's exactly what I used to do. I used to write those 500-page grant applications.
Oh my
Some
God.
applications now are 2 and 3 pages. I kid you not. So you can do it. It's
Right.
about knowing that there's a process, because again, it's about more than you just answering some questions and sending off an application. That will get you a rejection letter. There's a process to this. And that's why I take pride in being able to teach people how to navigate, right? How to really learn this process, so that you're not just writing a bunch of grants, not to get them, but that you're placing yourself in the best possible position to actually win grant funding. So
Yeah.
thank you, Bethany. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. So there's a couple things I just want to highlight, because we do have people that join like at the half hour. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier was the fact that you built a community. And I just want to reiterate that for things that are complex, for things that are unknown, you have the course that Linda's giving you the framework, the steps, what she did, how she won her own money, millions of dollars of her 17 million of her own grant writing. But then also you have community. And not only I have paid to be in rooms. Once I realized there were rooms that I should be in, I paid a lot of money to be in some rooms. And again, this is under $500 that you could potentially have other organizations that you might align in mission and vision, that you might be able to partner and collaborate with to win opportunities and
Yes.
grants. And then
Yes.
the last thing I just want to mention is I think it's super important that we just acknowledge the fact that we are stronger together. and we don't have all the answers. And sometimes we have to invest in our own skills and our own knowledge. And this is a skill that is incredibly valuable. I don't even know if you can place a value. It's not about the money that you won. It's about the potential that you can go after a grant if it's a good fit for you
Right.
forever. And you're building relationships. Linda said a second ago that she's teaching you how to build a relationship with a foundation or
Right.
with an organization. Well, guess what? If they got grant money this year, you think they're going to get grant money next year? Absolutely. So I just want to say, for those of you who are out here and that you've been listening or you just joined, if you just joined, go back and listen from the beginning, because Linda dropped a bunch of nuggets that could value you. It could be of high value regardless of where you are in your business, where you are in your journey, where you are in your grant writing or haven't started yet your grant writing. And building a relationship with organizations that align with you is priceless, in my opinion.
Very, very, very well said, Bethany. And that is true. That's absolutely true. And just know, diversify. You want to diversify your revenue stream, right? You don't always want to have all your eggs in one basket. And grants is a great way to be able to do that. Being able to secure contracts is another way to be able to do that as well. So I don't know if you want to mention something about
Oh yeah.
that we have this amazing free training training coming up Thursday, right? Thursday at
Yes.
noon. So this is for all of you, and this is for small businesses, right?
Yes.
Who want to secure contracts, right? That is so important. Don't know how. Know that there's, oh my gosh, almost $1 trillion out there that's provided through corporations, through governments and contracts. Want to know how you, once again, can place your organization in a position, right, to start getting contracts. Because again, you don't have to be afraid. People think contracts are just for multi-million dollar organizations. No, no, you can be a small business, you can be a teeny tiny small business and still get contracts. As Bethany said, we want you to win. We want you to be successful and look at multiple areas where you can bring in this revenue. Grants is one, contracts is absolutely another.
Yes. So I will make sure to drop the link in all the different places. I think we're on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Of course, I have to drop them in multiple places because I couldn't just drop them in one place. That would be way too easy. So I will make sure when you are watching this, if you are watching this past October 31st, there's an option to buy a replay. So you need to get the replay so you get the VIP experience so you can watch the replay after the fact. For those of you who are watching this after today, if you have any questions for Linda, you can type the @ sign and start to type Linda Peavy, Peavy, because she will not see it after this live stream happens. So if you have any questions directly for Linda, the course is in the link. The link to the course is in the chat, and you can make sure that you tag Linda so she sees it. Because after this happens in LinkedIn Live land, we don't see the comments unless you tag us. That's the only way it shows up in LinkedIn. But you can connect with Linda on LinkedIn,
Please
check
do.
out her course. She is masterful in what she does. So you are lucky that she is here in your world so you can learn from her, because I don't know how long she's going to keep doing this, but you need to take advantage of it while you can.
Thank you. Thank you, Bethany. I appreciate that. And yes, I welcome your questions. Please, again, at Linda Peavy, Linda Peavy, Peavy. And I would be happy to have a conversation with you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, Linda. This has been amazing. Everyone, do not sleep on grants. She said multiple times there's almost $200 billion of grants out there, which means there's probably a grant for all of us. There's probably a mission, a vision alignment, an
Yes.
organization that aligns with what our purpose and our passion is. We just
Yes.
got to find it. There's probably multiple. It's not just one. I'm sure
Right.
there's dozens that
Right.
you can find.
Right. All right.
Thank you. Good luck,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.